If you want to learn the custom home build process, you're going to want to watch this free webinar. In this webinar, I'm going to be giving you all the secrets to my success. I've been in the business for over 20 years building custom homes, and we've detailed out every single step in the process. So if you're just starting out, no worries, we got you covered. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. 1 minute after 2. And I'm going to go through this. The idea is to give everyone an idea of what it takes in the construction business. This is exactly what I've done with Southeastern from beginning to starting this business all the way up to present day. So if you guys have any questions, you can go to the chat section, leave your questions in the chat section. Brandon will let me know what those questions are. We got some folks here today. They may ask questions too. So as we progress, I'll be trying to answer the questions in real time. So as it states, this is the new construction business blueprint. The goal and the idea is to give someone who is thinking about maybe wanting to start a business, or maybe you're already in business and you want to learn more about the business side of the construction business. This is what this process is meant to do. So as you see, it's laid out in a step-by-step format, steps 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to step 23. I've tried to put this in an order in which flows the best. This is exactly as the best as I can remember it. This is the order in which I followed the process in order building Southeastern General Contracting. As I go through some of this stuff, just giving everybody a complete heads up, I am not the best speller or the best typer. So you're going to see typos, things of that nature. The intent and purpose of this is to give you a high-level overview of the step-by-step process in building a construction business. So we're going to get started. And again, leave your questions in the comments. If you see anything that piques your interest or has a question, leave a comment. Brandon will let me know. I'll be sure to try to answer it as we go along. Let's dive right into it. Step number 1 is business setup. Of course, this is the first step in anything. If you ever want to start a business, this is where you should start, is in this stage. What I would tell someone that's thinking about trying to start a business is the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to define, and determine who you are, what you're trying to do. Is it concrete work only? Is it roofing? Is it general contracting, where you're going to do like what we did and focus on all the different trades? Where are you going to service? Is it a 30-mile radius? Is it a 100-mile radius? Is it over the whole United States? And last but not least, on this section, I put why. I didn't learn this for a very long time. I didn't start out this way, but it's one of the first things that you should do. The reasons why it's the first things that you should do is because if not, you're going to be faced with this question at some point in time, and hopefully you won't do like I did and bomb that question and lose out on not just one deal, but 2 deals. I bombed it and lost 2 deals in one day. And I couldn't answer that question when I was asked, why should I hire you over your competition? So you're going to want to figure that out, get that answered, and practice delivering that answer to that question when someone asks you, why should I hire you over your competition? The next thing you're going to want to do, let me just come in here. If I miss one of these that's got the arrows, guys, be sure to remind me, because there's other information. I want to give you the whole overview also too, so I don't want to hold anything back. So step number 1, focus. The focus and scope of your construction business. Again, I kind of highlighted on that. You want to determine what type of construction business you're going into and the scope of the construction business you're going into. There's all kind of construction businesses, from the single trades, concrete, brickwork, roofing, framing, sheetrock, painting, or you could do remodeling, or you could do brand new construction, residential, commercial, government. You got to determine all that and then focus on what you're going to start out with and maintain that focus. Again, that very important question of what is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? A lot of times, if you don't know what this is, when you face struggles and troubles and things that you're going to face in business, your chances of quitting is really high if you don't understand and know why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. Because when it gets challenging, you're going to need to fall back on the reasons why you started. Oftentimes, that's our family. That's someone believing in us or things of that nature. Number three is the type of construction work. I kind of hinted on that. You need to determine if you're going to do government, residential, commercial, um, the area in which you're going to work, and the size and scope of projects you're going to take on. Are you looking to do jobs that are 50,000 or less, 100,000 or more, 500K or more? And of course, we all want to do the big projects, but all these things is some of the stuff you need to focus on at this particular stage. Next up is research. Some of the research that you need to do is, of course, you need to find out who your top competitors are. You need to do what is called a SWOT analysis. Some of you may or may not know exactly what a SWOT analysis is, but it's the strengths, weakness, opportunity, and threats. There's tools online that you can, use to kind of do that, but you definitely want to do this process, because without this, you're going to struggle to understand what your strengths are and what you should focus on when you're small. A lot of times you think that it's a big disadvantage, when in fact that is one of the things that makes you different, and it's actually an advantage, because a lot of the things that the big companies can't do, you can do easier, better, quicker, faster, give a more personal touch, where the bigger companies, they lack the ability to connect with their clients. So you uncover this type of stuff when you do the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats analysis. It's very important that you do this. Some of the stuff that I'm teaching you, you're going to learn when you go take business classes, things of that nature. That was one of the things I wish I would have done when I got started. I've had to learn this the hard way, but I'm going to try to give you some of the meat and potatoes of this stuff, but it's going to be up to you to take it and run with it and kind of go figure some of this stuff out on your own. I'm going to give you the high level overviews of what has worked. Developing a business plan. You want to establish your goals, establish your objectives. Who is your target market? Target market mean like, I want to target people who are building brand new custom homes that's $500,000 and above. The reason why you want to establish a target market is because you cannot hit a goal that you don't identify. So for me and for us, that's kind of the market that we've set. And so anytime an opportunity comes to us, if it doesn't meet a certain threshold or isn't in our target market, we know not to put much energy and effort into it. Your ideal client, I cannot stress how important it is for you guys to know who your ideal client is. This is something we did not start out doing at all, and it caused us some pain with some projects until we figured out exactly who our ideal client is. So the way you can kind of figure that out is that depending on what type of service you're in, for us, the ideal clients tend to be on the residential side of things, is folks who have already built a home or two before. They've been through the process, and typically our ideal clients are building their last home, their forever home. So they want quality. They want the process to be slowed down a bit. They want to know that, a lot of detail and care has been taken with that particular final home that they're going to build. So when someone comes to us who's never built before and they're wanting to build or start a home, well, we automatically already know they're not our ideal client. But if you don't identify this, you might be taking on clients that isn't necessarily the best thing for your business at that particular time. You're going to want to develop a marketing strategy. Part of our marketing strategy from the very beginning, I knew that at the time I got started when I was 21 or 22. I knew that one of our advantages, besides being small and being more personable, was that we knew the internet, we knew marketing, we knew how to do videos really well. So our whole marketing strategy has always been around video content, marketing, branding, things of that nature. And there's all kind of different marketing strategies that you can deploy, but that's what we did with our business. So, we're known mainly for that. And a lot of people even say that at one point in time, I heard comments out in the field like, oh, all you guys do is make videos. So figure out what your marketing strategy is and go all in on that. You're going to want to look at financial projections also with this. Now, again, I'm giving you guys a very high level overview, but also giving you everything that you need to know as best as I can and the best as I've documented for our own internal processes. You're looking at my internal process. You see at the top, it says SCGC core processes. So these are all the things that we've done. You got to create your financial projections, and you need to kind of determine what resources you're going to need. Once you do all that, then you go ahead and incorporate your business. You can do all this online yourself, or you can hire someone to do that for you. So choose a business structure. You can hire an attorney to do it, or you can do it yourself, the DIY method. You Most people will start out doing sole proprietorships, where you're just acting as an individual. You've got partnerships, you've got LLCs and corporations. Within corporations, you've got a C corp and an S corp. We chose a C corp because you're paying taxes one time, you're not double taxed. So when choosing your business structure, you want to kind of look at that. Some of you guys may be already well past this, so just bear with us until we get to the meat and potatoes of what you've came for. But I wanted to give a complete overview. Registering your business, I would recommend, if you can, to hire an attorney to do all this stuff for you, retain them, build a relationship with them, because you're going to need someone as you grow your business to do this stuff instead of doing it on your own. You see, I gave the option of hiring an attorney and doing it on your own, because when I got started, I couldn't afford an attorney. I had to do it on my own. And so a lot of us are like that. So you can see here, you can register with your state that you're doing business in. You can go to the Secretary of State's website, do that yourself, obtain all the necessary license and permits to do business. You can do a Google search. It'll kind of, point you in the right direction. Or now with ChatGPT, you can actually give it prompts to give you a detailed step-by-step process of incorporating an S corp, a C corp, or an LLC. You can ask it to give you the differences between an LLC, an S corp, a C corp, and you can definitely learn a lot by using that app. I'm imagining most of you guys are already familiar with ChatGPT. Now in business setup, building a firm foundation. I've got this listed as essentials. You're going to want to get a relationship with an attorney. You're going to want to get a relationship with a banker, with an accountant, with an insurance agent, with an architect, of course, with engineers, with realtors, and most definitely subcontractors, material vendors, and suppliers. And when you're ready to start doing commercial and government work, you're going to need to have a relationship with bonding companies. So these are essentials. I would recommend, all of them's not like critical at the beginning. Maybe your business attorney, of course, your banker and accountant, insurance reps would be your first ones to go ahead and start building relationships with, and do that early. It hurt me for a while in business by not having built relationships over the years with these folks, and I ended up having to do it later on. So if you do that now at the beginning, you'll just be ahead of the game. And I also recommend that you get involved with, if you're in our line of work, the trade associations, your Chamber of Commerce, your local industry trade organizations also. So that's the overview of what I went through setting up our business, Southeastern General Contracting. Chris, looks like you got a question.
Well, maybe for those who don't know what a bonding company is.
Bonding company. Okay, so Chris asked, for maybe some of you guys who don't know what a bonding company is, this is something that we've had to build relationships with in the past couple of years. The bonding company is sort of like an insurance company, I guess you can say. They back you on government projects or commercial projects. And essentially what it is that once you get a bonding company to back you on a project, if for some reason you didn't perform, the clients that you're working for, the owners, would have the assurance of knowing that their project's going to get done no matter what. Because if you do not perform or do not do what you promised you would do, the bonding company would step in and make it right. You do pay them a percentage of the job. That cost normally gets added into the contracted price and becomes part of the construction cost. Does that answer the question good? Okay. Next step, we just covered step one, the business setup module. Next is branding. After you set up your business, you need to be looking at branding. And the process we followed is we wanted to have a goal of our brand. Meaning, like, when you looked at our brand, within the first few seconds, we wanted to have it crystal clear that anyone who looked at our logo, our mascot, or our brand knew exactly what we did without even reading the name of our company. And so when you look at our mascot, our branding, it's got the name Southeastern General Contractors in it. It's got the yellow colors that's normally associated with construction. Excuse me. Everything was meant and designed and was intentional about making sure that upon quick glance, you would know we were in the construction industry, because a lot of times we only see something for a few seconds. And if you look around at some other folks' logos and stuff, you can't even really make out what their name is when they're driving by or when they've got stuff on billboards. So we didn't want to fall into that situation where, your branding is hard to determine what it is that you do. Branding, and then of course, like I said, we created our logo and mascot. Next thing we did was you want to look at what they call a brand style guide. Once you create your logo and mascot, your designer, I hired a guy online that I told him what my vision was for the logo and for the mascot, and he created several iterations until we got it right. But then also he sent me a brand style guide that showed the actual color codes that was in our logo, the browns, the yellows, the grays, what have you. So anytime we're getting shirts made or jackets made or hats made or any kind of stuff that we need to project our image, we knew exactly what colors that our logo was made of. So our polo shirts, our khaki pants, all of that stuff, it all, when you see that, it gives you a sense of cohesion, and you'll notice all the big brands, that's what they do. So we wanted to project ourselves, even though we wasn't a big brand, we knew that one day that we could be. So we wanted to start out with that in mind. The next stage is marketing. Now, some people think branding and marketing is the same, but there is a difference. In marketing, you want to determine who your target audience is, right? So depending on your company, what you do, if it's concrete, if it's remodeling, if it's painting, you have to know who your target audience is. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. Most people find this out probably like I did, the hard way, through trial and error. But you want to have that documented so you know when you're speaking to your target audience. And you've got a target audience, which is on a broader spectrum. So when I'm marketing, I'm advertising, my target audience is typically engineers, is typically architects, is typically realtors. It's folks who is searching online for forever homes or dream homes or commercial developments and things of that nature. So anytime I create an ad, I'm targeting those demographics. Now, again, you see this same term right here. It says, determine your ideal clients. You're going to want to know who those are too, so that way you can know them when you see them. Your demographic area that you want to target, you'll notice some of this stuff's going to have an overlap, and it's meant to be so, because anytime something's repeated, normally it's what? It's important, right? So developing a marketing plan. Our marketing plan was simple. Again, I'm laying this stuff out, but I didn't have necessarily a formal business plan when I got started. I didn't learn the real value of it until after years into business and almost failing multiple times. I realized I should have, had all this stuff figured out in the beginning. So now I've got it in the order in which I should have learned it. Developing a marketing plan, of course, building a website, your social medias, uh, branded clothing, like you'll see on our, I don't know if you guys can see the camera, with our logos on our jackets, on our shirts. We've got branded vehicle wraps. Even before I could afford to wrap my vehicles with our logo and graphics, one of the hacks that I did was that I saw I would find images of vehicles. Like I used to drive an Avalanche truck. I found images online of that, and I would just use Photoshop to grab our image and put it on the vehicle, like two different versions of a vehicle. I drove a gray Avalanche, but so I found a white one and I found a gray one, and I made like a contest and asked people for insight. Hey, which one do you think looks best? But it had our logo on the white vehicle and on the gray one, and that got a lot of response, right? And the more response and the more feedback we got, the more people were seeing our brand, they were seeing our logo in the local market, and that helps you with your marketing and getting your word out. You want to attend industry events that's within your market. Also using email marketing, collecting email addresses, sending email campaigns out. We do a lot of Facebook advertising with videos. Use YouTube videos is really effective. And one thing that we've really gotten heavy into in the past couple of years that I never really did, which I should have done in the beginning, was in-person networking, getting out, shaking people's hands, meeting people. And this by far is proven to be one of the best things. Many of you guys have probably already graded that, but I was an introvert for many years and suffered. It caused us to suffer in growing our business. So if you learn this, right out of the gate, the better off you're probably going to be. So again, let me expand upon that. Networking, local professional networking, going out and meeting architects, residential designers, realtors, mortgage professionals, engineers, surveyors, HOA board members, landscaping subs, site clearing subs, bankers, attorney. So all these different people you're going to want to go out and network with and to meet them, let them know your name, who you are, and more about your company. So here's some areas. I'm going to expand upon this a little bit just to give you guys a little bit more insight. When you're developing a marketing plan, determine your marketing budget, your strategies, your marketing timeline, and you still also need to establish clear goals and objectives with your marketing plan. Social media, most of you guys already know all the different platforms you need to be on. Sometimes, depending on the market you're in, one's better than the others. But, like LinkedIn's really good for my line of work. I'm able to target contracting officers specifically on LinkedIn. I can't really do that on Facebook, right? Contracting officers, meaning government contracting officers. So Pinterest is good for the custom home build side of things locally, advertising locally, because most people who are building a custom or luxury home is going to be on Pinterest. So you kind of just have to think about your own type of business and which one would work best for what you're doing. So let's move on to step number 4, leads and prospects. Brandon, has anybody got any questions in the chat so far?
No questions yet.
Okay, good. So if there is any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat box below. Leads and prospects. I'm gonna just kind of give you guys a overview of how things work for us. So let me expand upon that. And this stuff gets really wild. Do you guys see this? This is exactly the process we go through when a lead calls our office. Of course, phone rings. We've got a greeting. I used to train my folks with a script on what to say, how to say it, blah, blah, blah. And then again, you would want to do the same thing with your folks. Identifying the prospect's needs. Got a little script there that I go through with my team and train them with. So the phone call comes in, look at this. Client's looking for residential services. If they're looking for custom home build services, here's the process. We want to determine if the client's a good fit, identify their timeline at which they need to get something done, and here's how we qualify the prospect, right? How did you hear about us? How much research have you done on our company? These are some of the questions we ask at different parts of the conversation while just, having a normal conversation with someone who's looking for a contractor. These are some of the questions that we ask. So how much research have you done on us? There's possible answers and different scenarios there. What do you like about what you've seen or heard about us so far? I'd like to explain to you what happens next. Is that okay with you? So we've got a whole entire process mapped out of what each step typically consists of. And just like anything else, for something to work really great, you got to put a lot of time and energy, effort, and focus on it before you can start mastering it. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh my goodness, that's overwhelming, right? What I've learned to do is simply focus in on what's in front of you. One of the next steps we do after we ask the client why are they choosing to reach out to us, we would explain our process. See how simple that is? The high level is, hey, tell us a little bit more about how you found us, why us? Okay, great. Let me explain to you how our process works. Then you go about the flow of explaining how your process works. And if for some reason we see that we're not a good fit for one another, we will still give you all the best advice we can and be as helpful as possible, but we'll let you know that we're not a good fit and we'll recommend to you someone who may be a better fit. So that's explaining the process. If it's a good fit, then we'll move on to step number 3, and it's booking an appointment. We ask the prospect what dates and times work best. Then we go down that process of setting up that particular time. We create the appointment. And this is going to be recorded so you guys can play this back and stop and read the rest. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read everything. And then we send the prospects to our initial meeting orientation, which is a video where we've pre-recorded a lot of the answers to the questions that most people is going to have, and we have them to watch that. So when we meet them, they come in already educated, already pre-sold on our business, and it just helps us close the deal a lot faster.
One question.
Yep.
For some people might want to know, why would you want to make sure that, you know, the client is a good fit? Like, how does that help you with your contract?
So the client is some people, I mean, the question is some people might want to know why a client is a good fit.
Yeah. So how does that help?
So that helps you because the sooner you identify who your ideal clients are, the better off you're going to be. Because you typically can't be, you know, everything to everyone, right? Some people, custom home builders aren't a good fit for people who are looking to build a spec home. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you don't identify and uncover that quickly, you're going to be wasting their time and wasting yours. Because there's just no way that works. Custom homes or luxury homes or, forever homes is a totally different price point than starter homes. And people actually even get frustrated with you if you don't already know who your ideal client is, and then you're entertaining them as if they maybe are a fit, and then you start talking prices, and you're totally not even in the same ballpark. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good overview of, when a lead calls our office. So there's a process that we follow. If they're looking for commercial construction, there's a whole different flow that we go through with identifying ideal residential and commercial potential clients. Sometimes we get text messages from clients. Once we do, we just simply follow up with them via text message and then kind of put them in the same funnel. We get leads from YouTube in the form of commenting on videos, commenting on channels, leads from Facebook, sometimes, a lot of times on my personal profiles, and there's a whole different flow of process that we go with turning those from my personal profile over to our business. And then we get leads from our business, from Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and comments left on certain posts. And then we get leads from our website, of course. And this is typically how we get leads and prospective clients: through phone calls from our office, through text messages, either to me directly or to some of our team, from our social media, primarily YouTube and Facebook, LinkedIn, and our website. Any questions about that step? Chris, any questions? Anybody got any questions in the chat, Brandon, about that? Nope. All right, let's move on. Step number 5, sales and closing. So our process is kind of laid out exactly the way I've got it shown here. Number 1 is we've tried to automate and streamline our front end process to get people the answers to the questions, the information they want at their convenience. A lot of us are on the internet browsing late at night. Well, guess what? You call it 12 and 1 o'clock, you're not going to get anyone to answer. But the idea is you can go to our website, fill out a form, and begin an online quote unquote orientation process where we have created a whole video walkthrough experience of educating your prospective clients about how we do business, what our process is, the typical questions people are going to have when they're looking for a builder, and we give them the answers to that. We let them know what the typical objections may be for folks who are looking to hire a builder, and give them all the information they need to know up front 24/7 without even having to talk to us directly, in an automated fashion, by watching videos and going through and answering questions. And we get to know if we're an ideal fit for that prospective client, and they get to know if, vice versa, if it's a good fit all the way around. So we send them to an online orientation process. Once they fill out the online orientation process and request an appointment to talk on the phone, that phone follow-up orientation review, we review all the answers to the questions that they asked in the orientation. And then if we both feel that we're a good fit for one another, then we'll do an office interview where now we're coming in and we're meeting. By the time we get here, the great thing about this is that the deal is pretty much already done. When we get to the table at step number 3, they already know and already expect what happens in that meeting. They know that we're in agreement and we're ready to move forward. They know our payment terms. They know our pricing methods. They come in typically with a check in hand. And this is one of the ways we've been able to, streamline our whole sales process. We have a simple 1-page design build agreement that we go over in that meeting, and then we get the contract signed. That gets us started. We get a payment, get a deposit, and we set the timeline for the initial design, and the red line changes, and we're off and running. And that's a high level overview of our sales and closing process. Any questions on that? Next step, number 6, is team building. Team building step number 1 is knowing what I know now. If I had to start over again, you need to develop an HR policy. At this step, go ahead and do it now. Create job descriptions for each position you have within your company. And you're going to want to get really good, really fast at attracting top talent. Those of us who get really good at this, at attracting top talent and finding top talent and then retaining top talent, that by far is one of the things that can skyrocket your business the quickest besides your marketing and advertising, because people got to know who you are. They got to trust that you're doing a great job, and you got to have a good team. So when you do land a job, that you take very good care of the clients at meeting and exceeding expectations. Implementing a hiring process. One of the things we struggle with the most as entrepreneurs and business owners is this process of hiring, especially firing, right? So you want to lay out a process for what each one of those look like. And if I'm hiring, we do a lot of word of mouth referrals, Indeed ads, LinkedIn ads, and there's all kind of other ways you can go about finding and attracting top talent. Termination or firing, you got to have a process documented on what that process is going to be like. You just don't want to wing that. We talked about this a little bit just a moment ago about retaining. Once you find the right person, you get them trained. Now the task becomes, how do you retain those people? Because if you're being in business, that's a struggle, right? It's like you find the right person, you get them on board. As soon as you get them trained, here comes Billy Bob Builders over there, and all of a sudden trying to offer $1 or $2 more per hour or a little bit bump in pay. And if you don't have the right talent who doesn't see the long picture, the long haul for what they're trying to do, and if you haven't done a good job as a business owner, then you're going to have constant turnover even after you train your people. So you got to figure out a way to mitigate that. You do that by establishing a training program often that trains the talent. And while you're doing this, you kind of make them aware of this. And also they need to see, these folks, people who are high caliber, they need to see themselves joining a team that's got a bigger purpose, a purpose they can believe in, a place where they can feel like they can use their talents to help an overall goal. And you just have to really vet the people that you're bringing on to make sure that they fit your company's culture. And that's another thing too that is somewhere up in the process. I might not have expanded upon one of the buttons, but when you're building your business, you have to define what your company's culture is like. For us, our culture is, when you walk into our office, you should get a sense of peace, calmness, structure, not chaotic, family oriented, and personable and professional. You know what I mean? So if you don't have that, and you got to be intentional with that also, because you're going to want, that will attract certain type of people. So if you've got an atmosphere that's chaotic, that's all over the place, that's sporadic, you tend to attract people of like minds. You know what I mean? So if you've got that in your business, you may want to take an internal look and see what you need to correct to start correcting that whole dilemma if you're facing that. Creating performance evaluations. So if even when you have the right team, periodically you want to do a performance evaluation with them and sit down and show them what they're strong at and what they're weak at. Implement an employee development program. So when in the areas they're weak in, you got to have a means of helping them grow. This is part of how you retain talent, is because if you're helping them do all that, of course, they're going to recognize that, and they're going to like that, and they're going to be appreciative of that. The right people will be, and the likelihood of them sticking with you for the long haul increases exponentially. Establish a system for handling employees' concerns and grievances. So, that's step number 6. Chris, guys, any questions on that?
As the team grows and becomes more complex, what communication channels and tools do you use to keep everyone connected and on the same page?
So as a team grows, of course, it gets more complicated to keep everyone on the same page. The thing that has worked for us is utilizing technology. There's nothing that replaces the human connection, is what I'm finding. more than anything first, the ability to sit down with folks at certain times and connect with them, and doing the obvious things, which is caring for your people, right? Trying to get to know each one of them on a personal level and connecting with them like that. Beyond that is you want to have a system and tools to where it's almost like being omnipresent. So what we've done is that for now we're using Messenger. You could use WhatsApp or any group messaging, and for different jobs or for different teams, we have everybody in that group, and we're all connected there, and we're able to communicate in a way that's instant, that's clear, that doesn't lead to chaos, and it's documented. Meaning, if we're at one job and this crew's at another job, and I'm over here and you're over there, it's hard to keep things organized and in a cohesive situation when everything's all over the place. So what we've done is we've put every job, every team in a group where we're all in it, but it's categorized based on jobs. But then everybody stays on the same sheet of music. Everything's documented. And so that has been one of the biggest things that I contribute to us being able to do what we do effectively, eliminate miscommunication, and help us stay connected with one another. Because sometimes you may get sick or you may have to attend to this and that, but you may be responsible for a job, right, Chris? And life happens. You need your team members who's got your back. You need to make it to where they can jump in and cover down for you without, being totally lost, right? In previous times, that was difficult to do, but now it's too easy. I mentioned to you guys earlier, essentially what we're doing with the team, it's almost like getting paid to be on your phones or on your tablets. Most of us are already doing it now, but we're just doing this, just mindlessly scrolling often. But what I tell people is that in our business, you're getting paid primarily to use these tools because our phones, our devices is just another tool. But if you're over at one of the government jobs that we've got, or the commercial job, or the residential job, and there's something going on, if you record a video and you explain in detail as if someone's right there with you what's going on, what measures you took to remedy a situation, or who you've talked to and what the next steps are, and you document that in a group with you and your team or whoever else that needs to be aware of it is right there, and they confirm that they're tracking, tomorrow if something happens to you, how easy is it for one of your other team members to jump in and cover down for you? That's how you create an environment, create a system using technology, using tools to where as your company grows, you don't hit those same bottlenecks because you're communicating in a way that is really the most effective way of communicating. And on that note, that's one of the biggest struggles. Actually, the biggest struggle that people say they struggle with the most with contractors in general is, guess what? Anybody know? Communication. So that's how we solve that problem, is utilizing a tool that eliminates the chaos in communication. And for now, we're using Messenger for that.
Yeah, one question in the chat here.
Okay.
Tony asked, what do you look for in an employee?
What do I look for in an employee? Someone who's hungry, first of all. Right now, I mean, that might change next week or next month. But for right now, I look for someone who is hungry for an opportunity, who is driven. I'm not necessarily looking for the person who already has the skill sets. I mean, ideally, that's the right answer. You find someone who already knows that, but this work environment, that's difficult, right? So now I'm looking for someone who is energetic, who is hungry, who is passionate, who wants to learn, because if they've got that, I can teach them the rest. And if they've got that, normally you only have to show someone one time and they typically get it, especially with the way we communicate and document, have, video explainers as if you're right there. If I get that and I build a team up with like-minded people like that, then you have a team of rock stars that you have taught your way, and all they started with was a passion and a hunger for wanting to grow and learn. Did that answer the question? Okay. Was there any other questions?
No.
Okay. Team building. Next, we've got, there's nothing expanded here. We just got that 1-page agreement. And in step 7, we've closed the deal. We bring in someone. A lot of times people will have this long drawn out contract, but one of the things we do is that we try to be efficient, as effective as possible. So we just simply, at this point in time, when we initially sign a client, we've got a 1-page design build agreement where the client agrees to hire their designer and builder for said project for X amount of dollars, lay out the expectations, the receivables, get a deposit, get them, get the check received, and then we move on to the next step, which is client onboarding. Now, client onboarding is after they've paid, we set them up typically also in a messenger group with us, our team, and them. And once we do that, all the phone calls typically stop for the most part, because one of the key integral parts for us is to have effective communication, is to keep the communication centralized. So we've got myself, my team, and the clients in their own group, right? And anytime they need to communicate with us, we tell them up front, hey, send us a video, send us an audio, send us a photograph, tag who it is that you are communicating with. So this way, everything's an open book. So that way, if the homeowners or the clients or whoever sends a message to Brandon or to me, everybody in the team sees it, and Brandon will respond, or I'll respond, but everything's open. There is no, well, hey, I called you and nobody called me back, or, when we talked, you said you were going to do this and you were going to tell Brandon it, but you never got back with me. It holds everybody accountable. And when one of us do slip, someone else in the team can also kind of make sure that we're not slipping. And the best thing is everything is documented. And with Messenger, one of the things I love best is that you can actually see when someone has watched or viewed each particular post or message that you've sent. So it eliminates all the miscommunications for the most part, and it just streamlines that whole communication process. And we onboard our clients to give them that same level of communication with us and our entire team. And let's face it, we're all living in a world where we want instant gratification. Communication with clients and getting updates is no different. So what better way to have a client in a group and they've got a question, they can send it right there. They see when someone's looked at it, they get a response. And we do let clients know also too, with this comes a potential issue of them abusing it. You know what I mean? Like sending you messages at 3 a.m., things of that nature. So when we're onboarding clients or interviewing clients or determining who's an ideal client and who's not, these are some of the questions that we ask and some of the things we go over to get them to agree to certain rules of engagement, I guess you can say. So we will give them sometimes also access to some of our co-construct or things of that nature. We will go over a list of frequently asked questions, give them a video playlist of what to expect during their design phase and things to look for at each stage of the design phase, because this is where they're at now. They're getting ready to start the design phase once we onboard them, because we typically design all of our plans in-house. And that's the client onboarding stage. Any questions with that? All right, next stage is the preliminary budget. Now, we've onboarded the client, right? We've got them set up. Before we start anything, you have to start out with a preliminary budget, a range. This is what we do. Hey, where are we trying to stay at? $100 to $500, $1 million to $5 million, 250,000, or in our case, 500,000 to 850,000. So you establish the preliminary budgets, because that's going to go along with your preliminary building plans. The way we work is we get a projected range first, then we get a projected heated square foot range. We know we're at $200 minimum per heated square foot without land, without any other fees. Our fee starts out at $200 per heated square foot and will normally average around $225 or so, depending on the build. It could be more. And there's a process we follow. We'll say that price per square foot times the typical square footage that the clients say they're looking for, and that will give us an ideal budget range. Now, when Adam, our designer, is drawing these plans and creating the heated square footage, he's tracking all of this at the same time to make sure we don't go too large on our square footage. And also when they're designing specs and selections in the plans, he's making sure we're not going outside of that projected range. And if we do, he documents that he's made the clients aware and they acknowledge, so there's no confusion as we progress with the project. Once we have the preliminary building plans, the next thing that we do is we talk about allowances. We've got a budget that we've agreed to, a budget range, right? Now, the next thing is this is where a lot of builders, a lot of people, building homes will get into trouble if you ain't careful, because people don't really detail this stage out that much. It's just, hey, I got a $5,000 allowance for a refrigerator or for countertops. Now, this is one of those things that kind of gets a little bit detailed also. But let's look at this. You've got list of clients' allowances. These are the typical allowances that we use sometimes. And the reasons why we will use an allowance is because you can't pin down what these costs are going to be. They range, they got a variance. So you do your best to try to pick an allowance that should work. However, if you don't tell your clients up front the pros and the cons of an allowance, in which we do, we tell them the blessing and the curse with allowances, is that you don't really know what your well is going to cost if we have a well drilling allowance. Typically, it's between 8,000 to 10,000 for a typical well, but it could easily become 20 or 30,000 depending on how deep you have to drill down for that well. Now, some builders might not say that up front because that may scare the client or may not, create the best feeling during the initial stages. But I found if you're not honest with people, that's where the problems really come in. So even with the site clearing, a lot of the times your overages will come at the very beginning of a project. You will have site clearing and you will go over budget. Part of the things that we do to offset that is that when we determine and set on a price per square foot range that we agree to, we always tell the clients, no matter what price that you are settling on or agreeing to, you have to always have a contingency fund. You have to always have a buffer above that number to help cover in advance some of the surprises. And where people get into a lot of trouble with building custom homes is the surprises, and or building at the very top of their budget with no contingencies, no reserves, and thinking that maybe you could go back to the bank when oftentimes you're not able to go back to the bank and ask for more money. And if you get into a situation in any of these allowances where you're going way over, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble. But here are typical allowances: site clearing allowances, window allowances. From going from Pella windows to Anderson windows could be a difference of $10,000 or $20,000, right? Entry door allowances. Do you want a custom wood door that's round and custom engraving? That could be $8,000 to $10,000 to $20,000, or do you want a wrought iron door that could be $6,000? So these are meant to bring up questions that force you to think and figure out what it is that you're looking for and what ranges you're trying to work with him. Light fixture allowances, plumbing fixture allowances. All of these things can range from one end of the spectrum to the other. So as we're going through this and as we're talking with clients, this forces us to start now talking about things like this. What is included in the plumbing fixture allowances? Does that make sense, Brandon? So now we're talking about, okay, well, this is all faucets. Let's talk about your kitchen faucet, your vanity, your shower faucet. What is your expectations with the kitchen faucet? Now they're going to show you what their expectations are, right? And this gives you an opportunity. Once you see the expectation, you can go look at what the price is going to be. And if it's a $500,000 home and they're showing you a faucet that is, $3,000 just in the kitchen alone, now you can start having a conversation like, hey, we're building a $500,000 home and just your kitchen faucet is going to be $3,000. Normally those are around, $1,000 instead of $5,000. And if we keep it that same trajectory, we're going to be way off target here. So it forces you to have those kind of conversations early on in the process. Does that make sense? And it goes the same thing with your cabinets and your built-ins, your countertops, painting allowance, garage door, shelving appliances, gutters, landscaping, flooring, what have you, right? Now, any of those can be allowances and any other item can be allowances. And so again, the blessing and the curse with allowances is it allows us to get to a range that we can agree on very quickly. But the curse can be if you don't ask the right questions and get the right expectations before you finalize a set of plans, and especially before you start building. When you start building and you go and install, the kitchen faucet that's the Delta with the pull handle and it costs $300 or $400, the owner may have thought that they were going to get a fixture that's, $2,000. But if you don't talk about that and just wait till you start construction, that's the problem with not making all of your selections during the initial design stage. A lot of folks, a lot of builders, everybody does it different ways. and it works for some people. For us, we could never get it to work the way we want it to work. So now everybody makes all the selections up front when they sit down and go through the design stage. And once we make those selections are confirmed to be within the certain allowance, and then it gets added to the design, eliminating that whole problem altogether. And what I'm giving you guys here, if you can pick up what I'm laying down, it's going to solve a lot of your problems just by implementing some of the things that you're seeing me talk about here. That's allowances. Next thing, anybody have any questions about allowances? But make no mistake about it, this is one of the biggest things that people get. This is one of the biggest problems in building custom homes. And you'll hear a lot of times, my builder didn't give me enough on my allowances for light fixtures, for garage doors, for whatnot. And that may be true, right? I'm not saying a builder does that intentionally. Some may not. But there's also a flip side of that coin. That builder may have been told, well, hey, we don't have time to make all these selections right now. We're good with the allowances. We got to move. We got to get in. Let's just get it done. I'm not that picky about it. Actually, it doesn't even really matter. And the builder's trusting and moves forward and then get to that stage. And, they go to pick out the fixtures right before the electricians, they're ready to get it installed, and the builder's on them saying, well, hey, we need to get these fixtures picked out. They give a spec on fixtures, and now when he adds up the bill, it's triple what they had settled on with the allowances. Who's at fault in that situation? They both are, in all honesty, right? But most builders just want to do a good job, and they let the clients lead them way too much. The builder's the professional. How many times you go to a doctor and you lead the doctor? You tell the doctor what your prognosis is, what your diagnosis is, and you tell them what medicine you want, and they just write the prescription and give it to you. But in the construction industry and the builders, oftentimes we do that to our own demise and to our clients. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So now, once we have the preliminary building plans, we've established allowances, and we've confirmed those allowances work with the specs and selections that are chosen that are now put on the final building plans. So now you're working with the final set of building plans that has the plumbing fixtures, the paint colors, the flooring that you're going to use in each room with the make, model selections and patterns and directions. And this gives you a chance to confirm that the selections meet and fit within the budget. Does that make sense? And you get the clients to sign off on each page of the final sets of plans. So this way, and you explain to them that you're going to build exactly to the plan that they've signed. If the floor pattern direction shows left to right when you walk into your front entry in your foyer, and that plan shows the floor pattern being left to right, but then you get to that process and the homeowner happens to walk in, and for some reason the expectation was still, well, hey, my flooring's supposed to be front to back, not left to right. Granted, they're not happy. However, when you as the builder would go back and say, well, hey, we agreed that we were going to do it per plan, per spec, and we show the pattern here on the flooring layout sheet that we all reviewed in office, and we record all of our meetings, by the way. So anytime we're meeting someone, reviewing plans, we're reviewing that, it's documented, we talk about these things, and we let them know, hey, is there anything that needs to be addressed on this particular set of plans? Because once you sign it and you give us the seal of approval, we're going to build it just like this. And if we get in the field and there's a discrepancy, we agree that we're not going to get angry, we're not going to get upset. We're going to refer back to the plans. And if the plans say and show that we did what it is that's in question the right way per the plan, then that's what it is, right? We do all that, and sometimes you'll still face that question and still face that situation, but the goal is, with doing all of this, it makes it easy. There should be no arguments, really no frustrations, because you talked about this up front. And in the worst case scenario, you can go back and say, well, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, see here on page 7, the floor pattern that we've agreed to was going left to right, not front to back. Normally, when you do that, it diffuses the situation. And it typically will be like, oh, okay, yep, you're right. We must have missed that, but yeah, it's okay. You're right. Or it's going to be like, you know what? I understand. You're right. We signed off on it. I don't know how we missed that, but I totally do not like that. The whole purpose for building this house was for the flooring to go front to back. That's the way I've always envisioned it. can you give us a quote to take this up and redo it? And this is where a lot of builders get stuck because you never hear that, hardly ever. And the only way you're going to hear that as a builder is to have your stuff documented so well to where, it's evident. There's nothing more that you could have done, right? So having this laid out this way will help you cover yourself in the event you find yourself in those type of situations. So we get the final plans and we build from them. Once we have the final plans and we have them signed and everything's done, then we go to a final contract. Now, a lot of people will sign a contract on the front, and we do things differently. As you see, we had an initial one-page agreement that handled the design and the build aspect. But now that we went through the final set of plans, the allowances, confirming the specs and selections, meet the allowances, and we're all on the same page at that time, then and only then will we sign a final contract. Now we're able to put everything together and ensure the budget range that we started out with actually works on the back end of the design. Yeah, Chris.
So it's ideal for you to design the plans when they come and meet you. But what if someone comes already with plans designed and said, well, my architect said this house is gonna cost $600,000, here's the plans. What would you do in that situation? If they seem like an ideal client, it's just the plans that seem to be the problem.
Okay, so the question is, we get a client who seems to be an ideal client, but they already have their plans designed and they've already paid $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000 for a set of plans, and they don't want to pay it again, and they want us just to build from the plans that they provide, right? Where we're at now, we would decline the job. Not that they're not an ideal client. That is one of the red flags that we look for. Not that it's wrong that they've done anything wrong. It's just our process. Our process is driven to where we design the plans because there's no other architect, there's no other engineer that are designing the plans to actually show the floor pattern, the make, the model, and the direction, and put that on the plans for the builder to follow. You see what I'm saying? They don't show on your foundation plan a color-coded wall system that gives a breakout with color-coded coordination, which wall has this detail, right? On your electrical plan. So each one of our drawings, we go above and beyond to integrate our process to make things smoother, better, that protects us all. But if we go work with another architect's plan that doesn't have that, even though you can build from that, we can't build as efficiently from somebody else's plan as we can our own. And we explain that to the homeowners or to the clients. I would say 80% of the time they agree to have us to redesign it because they already see a lot of times when we start talking about that and looking at the plans, we already start uncovering problems that the builder's going to lay back on the architect. But it's not my fault. Your architect did that. And now you're at a discrepancy, and guess who ends up having to foot the bill for whatever that discrepancy is, if the builder actually covers himself with that. If it's really an ideal client, we'll find ways to make it work, meaning they may not have to pay the full. Yep. So they may not have to pay the full amount, and we might give them a discount, but we always have to design our own plans to make our process work the way that we know that it can. We've tried doing that before, where we built from somebody else's plans that doesn't have the things set up like we do, and it was almost like insanity for us because we were repeating mistakes that we had already solved. And it was called, we've already paid for those issues, and the fact of us having to revisit those and it become a thing, I just like, no, I'm not going to build that way. And some people's okay with that, some people's not. And, we're okay with that. We just want to be transparent about how we do business, and it's about being super efficient for us. Next up, once you have your final contract and your final plans, your specs, allowances, now you're at the bank approval stages, right? And at the bank approval stage, you typically prepare a bank packet that consists of the final set of plans that are signed, completed and signed selection sheet. If the banks are smart, they would require this. I don't know why they don't do this. All banks don't require this. They should not do a construction loan until they get these two things. Because guess who's also in this deal? It ain't just the builder and the client, the bank. So if a builder if a builder and a client don't get all this stuff ironed out, guess when they're going to have to figure it out? While they're building. And typically the homeowners are busy during the day, and he's trying to make progress. So guess what happened? Delays happen. More interest is incurred. If they have to pay another 2 months of interest and it's $2,000 a month in interest, that's $4,000, then that becomes a problem. But then the builder is going to want to say, well, hey, the reason why it's taking longer is because I can't get the selections. And then they go make the selections and they fall in love with the selections and they get quotes and the selections is outside of the allowances. So now they got to take more time off work and go redo it again. How frustrating do you think that is? It's extremely frustrating. We've been there, we've done that. That's why we won't do it no more. You have to make these selections up front. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you can do it any way you want to, but for us, this is the way we have to do it. And then you get 3 comparable comps for the appraiser. The other thing is too, in building homes, is that you can do all of the stuff that I just shown you, and you still have obstacles with the appraisal, right? Now, we're at a higher price point, so it's a little tough for us to get appraisals sometimes. We haven't really had that come to cover lately. We've learned how to craft our spec sheet and show the appraisals exactly what all we're doing with our homes. We do everything above the industry norm, and they've been giving us the value for it. And surprisingly, on a lot of our homes, people, even though they're paying $200 a square foot or $240 or $250, they're still walking in with equity in their home. And to give some context, a lot of builders, they might build it $180 a foot if they don't have to factor in the land or whatnot. You know what I mean? But they're not doing all the things that we're doing that's above and beyond, starting out from the size of your footings. The most important thing is the foundation in your home. We always go 24 inches wide, 10 to 12 inches thick. Some folks are getting by with 8 inches thick. You'll never see that. You don't know that because it's hidden. It's in the ground. And plus, it's code, right? So when we're giving quote, we do that because we want to have a peace of mind of knowing that we've over-delivered. And we document all. That's why we do the compaction test in the footings, in the pad before under slab rough ends are done. After they come back, we do it again. But when you add up all these little extra things that we're doing that, isn't necessarily required, but most people who are building a forever home, they're going to want to know that their builder is going above and beyond. And ain't that, we can't give this stuff away because those compaction tests are running us $800 to $1,000 a pop. But we're doing 3 or 4 of them at various stages. That's $4,000 we got to add to the bottom line. When you don't have to do that, guess what most folks is going to do? They're going to cut it. But then when something's wrong, something goes wrong, they don't have their self covered. You know what I mean? The compaction, you can go there and compact that, and if it ain't compacted every 6 or 8 inches, and you got to remember the guy told us about the voids on some of the other commercial jobs, who do you say was liable for that? The builder was liable. But he was probably told, well, your price is too high. And guess what he did? He went and cut his price because it wasn't required. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can want to please folks and find ways to make it happen, but you also got to know what you won't cut back on.
Yeah.
Because of liability, you know what I mean? So that's the bank approval stage. Any questions on that? Okay. Now, after we go through the final contract, bank approvals, now we bring on we choose our subcontractors and vendors, right? We issue POs to the subcontractors. We send out the plans. We already have a takeoff done. I already know what my budget range is for all of my material, all of the subcontractors, and then we send them out the plans and the specs and have them to give quotes. And we make sure we're choosing folks, not necessarily who is the lowest, of course, but folks who work the way we work, who will follow our process, meaning like all of our subcontractors and vendors, when they go to our job site, they're in messenger groups. They have to communicate the same way we do. They let us know when they get to our job site. As they're progressing through their tasks, they have checklists that they have to check off on and verify and send video proof that things have been done, just like this morning. We went out to that one job site. How many things did we catch? We caught two things. The inspector's not going to look for either one of those. The trades folks, you know what I mean? Oftentimes they don't check that stuff because it's not the norm. We're literally fighting the way we do things, the whole industry here locally and nationally, because these are little things that we're doing that's not necessarily required, but if you don't catch them at certain times, it can cause you to come back and have to do rework. And the sad part about our industry is that's the norm. Right? But that 30 minutes we went on the job site and using our messenger group and having the subcontractors to show us video proof and pull measurements, how quickly were we able to catch that? Hey, whoa, that's not right. That needs to go over what, 3 inches.
Mhm.
So you need to do this, this, and this. So go ahead and do that. And then send us a photograph, a high-res photograph. Let us see that. Show us an overview video and make sure that we're good. And we do that oftentimes without even having to go to the job site. But that was $1,000 issue waiting to happen. The other one was $1,000 issue waiting to happen that we solved today. And actually, it's more than that because it compounds. It involves multiple trades and rework and delays. You see what I'm saying? So we get our subcontractors and vendors who are like-minded. We bring all of our subs into the office, sit down with them, go over who we are, how we do, what we do, make sure they're up to speed on technology, make sure they're on board with communicating and documenting their process the way that we do. And if not, that's okay, but we're not a good fit. Same thing with the client. She's like, how do you know who's your ideal client? How do you know who's your ideal sub? For us, our ideal team partner and subcontract and partner is not the huge companies. They're companies like us, where it's a family-owned business. You got normally the family structure or close-knit structure, and it's a mom and pop shop. They do great work, but they're small enough, they're big enough to get the job done, but small enough to still actually care to get the details right. And that's our model. So when you know what to look for, it's easier to find it instead of trying to work with everybody. You know what I mean? So we gather subcontractors' docs, their general liability, insurance. They have to name us additional insured. Workers' comp, same thing, their W-9 form. And we look right here, it says subcontractor orientation video. The same way we go about with our clients to make sure that we're a good fit for one another, we do it with the subcontractors and vendors also. We're able to do what a lot of people say is impossible with how we document, how we communicate. I was told a long time ago, oh, you can forget it. These subcontractors, they won't even, you know what I mean? They won't even hardly show up on time. And you think you're going to get them to get on the phone and record a video and document doing this, and you can hang it up. Well, those people didn't know who they were talking to. You know what I mean? Because I get like a rush doing what people says is impossible. And look at, you saw today, it was clear, right? Did that subcontractor, did they seem eager and open to learning that and now implementing that? What we showed them, what that one little thing that we needed to show them. But if you listen to everybody else, you won't even try. Now that we've got the subcontractors and vendors who are on budget, who are on page with us, doing things the way that we do it, how much easier do you think it is to manage those jobs when you've got all your subcontractors going out there, letting you know when they're there, if there's a problem? And you can't be on a job site 24/7, even though that might be the expectation. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
But you've got your team that documents everything the same way we do, and they're covering their bases. And if there is something off, they're sending a video explainer, pointing, showing, just as if you're standing right there with them, and you may be 3 hours away. And you're able to say, well, no, hey, shift it over 3 inches and then stand back, show the measurement, and I'll tell you if we're good. Boom. Right? You get electricians, the plumbers, the HVACs, the roofers, and all that. You'll do what the industry said is impossible. And that's what we've been able to accomplish. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I'm most proudest of. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is because if I had to start over again and I had someone showing me this and teaching me this, you know how much money and problems and mistakes that you're going to save just by getting an overview of some of this stuff. Now, there's a lot of other stuff. I'm going through this real quickly. And of course, there's a lot more intricate details as far as the problems. We got a list of problems at every stage of the process that we've learned from over the years, that one mistake could be $50,000, could be $100,000, and that could wipe you out. Right? And the part of the process is we've got a whole other mind map with the subcontractors for each trade, everything that they're supposed to be checking on and making sure, and stuff that we've had to learn the hard way, and also associating a dollar amount with how much that's cost us. Right? But I wanted to do this at a high level so the people who are interested, if there's realtors on board, if there's anyone who's interested in this field of work, would be able to look at this and get tremendous value. But also, if they want to learn more, then, that's where we're looking at creating, like what we've talked about with the Contractors Academy the Contractor Buddy software, and create this inner circle or this mentorship program to where folks can come on board with us. And as we roll this out, we haven't developed it yet. We're in the process of developing it. But if this type of stuff interests you and you want to learn more in depth about this entire business, then we're going to put a link, make sure we put a link at the end of this webinar where they can go, put your name, email address in this form, and it'll let us know that you're interested in getting the software that we're developing. Is going to blow your mind what we're doing. Nobody else is doing what we're doing. And if you want to get more advanced training on the course that we're going to do that goes in way more detail than this, and join our inner circle, our VIP inner circle, you can sign up for that and learn the building business from the inside out without having to take all the losses that you're going to take doing it alone or doing it otherwise. So now we've got our subcontractors and vendors. You see this project verification, step number 16? Now look at this. Project number 16, project verification. Create document packages. Look here. The first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to submit for building permits, right? Well, here's the process that we follow for going about getting our building permits. And in our software, what we're doing is not only are we going through each one of these steps, step by step, we've got explainer videos and demonstration videos of us doing every single step in the build process. So even if you've never been through this before and this stuff looks like Chinese or a DNA strand, the idea is you would be able to come at each stage and watch a video and learn about all the documents that you need to complete and needs to be included in order to complete a building permit package. So when you go to the permit office, you're talking intelligently. You're acting as if you've done it multiple times, even though you may have not ever done it. You would know to bring 2 sets of final plans with signatures. You would know to complete the building application, and we would have videos showing you exactly how that's done through past projects, how to log into Liens NC and what that's for, and how to register for that, how to submit and erosion control plans. And then you would just simply go through all the other steps of getting yourself set up with the different permit packets, superintendent packets that they would need to run the job, and project info packages. You need all this before you even start the job, right? Then you're going to verify and confirm all documents are in a 3-ring binder. The superintendent normally gets a 3-ring binder or a digital version of it now if you've got an iPad, but you want to make sure all this is verified before you even get started. Why do you think that's important, Brandon?
So you're not going inside those meetings, it's crazy, not having none of that information, not having that information on hand. Then,
right. Yep. Got a question, Chris?
So the chat actually has a question.
Okay.
Staff Contractor Buddy application. Besides your own application, which is Contractor Buddy, is there any software that you recommend, like Chief Architect?
We use SoftPlan. It's like Chief Architect. So SoftPlan, SoftPlan is the software we use to design all of our blueprints. Okay, and project verification. Now we're going to permits and project setup. So now it kind of walks you through applying for a permit, telling you what you're going to need to get the permit. Also, to go there, you're going to need to check to pay for the permits, right? How detailed is that? The whole idea is here is that once we go through, and I've skipped a lot of these because it would take me who knows how long to go through every single bit of this, but I'm giving you guys the meat and potatoes on a high level overview, but also letting you know that there's so much more to learn. And what I've did for my team and my business is I've detailed this. And so when I'm training, like you guys, when you come on board, if your role is going to be a superintendent, you will learn every bit of this. How many checks do you need? Why do you need 2 checks? One's typically for a building permit and others for the health department if you're doing, well and septic. Some of the most valuable things here is this. Check this out. Now, I found this to be one of the most beneficial things. You're going to go, Chris, you never went and met with a building inspector, right? So check this out. Step number 2, it says, while there, meet the inspector that's over the project. You see that? Now, what do you want to do? You want to introduce yourself. Now, imagine that each one of these steps, you got a little video play icon, right? that plays a video and I'm walking you through it, role playing or telling you or showing you exactly how I do it or how it's been done. Let the inspector know that you look forward to working with him or her. Ask the inspector if there are anything that we should know, or if there are anything that the other builders typically miss that he or she can make us aware of, so we can make his or her job as streamlined and as easy as possible. Now, do you think when you ask a building inspector that, what do you think that they're going to think of you?
They're going to know that you're on top of your game for sure.
For sure.
Asking about what could be potential common missed things up front maybe help save his own time some more, because he doesn't have to come out to the job as much to inspect if you failed or something like that.
So here's, look, inform the inspector that instead of writing down notes that gets lost, we simply take a video of the said items or what we've talked about and show him how you send that video back to your whole team. Show him how this enables the whole team to literally be on the same page as you guys, and that you can see when everyone on our team has viewed this video. Let him know this helps us to ensure we minimize miscommunication. Let him know that our goal is to be one of the best general contractors that he's ever worked with. Now, you see in the direction this is starting to go into now, don't you? Beforehand, it was telling you, kind of like structure, setup, blah, blah, blah. Now you're getting into tactics, specific tactics of how to let people know that you're building relationships with, that you're different, that you are super passionate about what you do. You might be one of the first persons that's ever even approached him like that actually cares. You know what I'm saying? And what ends up being something that's against people who are new is the fact that they're new or that they're young. But if you as young folks go in and has this training and speaking like that and actually meaning it and loving what you're doing, people can read, they can see it. And you build a certain level of respect and trust with that inspector right out of the gate. And how do you think that's going to pay dividends when you're working with them? It's going to be huge dividends, right? So now here's some of that. Look, ask the inspector, what do you see other GCs failing at the most? What would you like to see the GCs do that would make your job easier? Are there any special requirements that we should know about for your area that we may not be used to while working in other areas? Ask the inspector for his mobile number and email. Most of the times you're going to get told no of this, but it never hurts to ask, because a lot of places won't give you the mobile number of inspectors, and it's going to just make the job difficult because you can't really directly communicate with the inspector. But when you can, it makes your job a lot easier. And oftentimes when you're in these kind of conversations with the inspector, oftentimes they may give it to you because they like you better. Now, if needed, will he do a courtesy walkthrough with us after framing is completed? Because we want to reduce the number of return trips that our framers have to do. If he has a moment to look over the plans with you, ask him if he has a moment to look over the plans with you so you can show him a few things that you have a question about. And the goal is to get the inspector to give you his feedback and input while looking over each sheet. Be sure to record this process if possible. This essentially, what you're doing is building a rapport with the building inspector in his environment, in his office, before you get started. So the idea is that when he goes out there in the field, you're not one of the builders he's having to go down and be so worried about. He already knows you're on top of your stuff. You're probably going to be more critical than he is what the thought pattern is going to be. And that's the kind of reputation that we've built, and this is how we've built it, and this is how you maintain it. Applying for temporary power at the job site. I'm not going to go through all that, but there's your process. Applying for the water meter, right? The job site setup. Creating the job site setup diagram that shows where the roof trusses are going to be dropped, showing where the framing materials are going to be placed, shows where the foundation materials will be placed, show where the trash ban's going, where the porta-johns going, where the smoking area is going. This will actually be a different set of plan. You see Mark create this already, illustrating that. So you're doing all of these different things way in advance to make sure that your project is set up to run as efficiently as possible. Does that make sense? Is there any questions in the chat, or you guys have any questions about that?
We just have a webinar question. I can get a copy of this webinar.
So we've got this recorded, right? So Brandon will make sure that the people that we got the email addresses for, that you guys signed up, you'll get an email link with this recording. And again, if you guys, we're building a software out that if you think this is amazing, The software that we're building is going to be something that revolutionizes and changes the way construction is being done. If you want to get on the list to be notified of when that's happening, we're moving and transitioning more into this type of stuff. And we want to help other people learn this type of stuff, because one of the things we've had to do locally is try to change the local industry. We've done so in a small way with what we do, but we're realizing that a lot of people can benefit from this. I'm in a Builder 20 group. There's other builders that I talk to. And so I've been wanting to do more of this. This is part of one of my goals also, is to do this, to document our whole process that I followed, so someone can go back at any point in time later and look at it and learn from it years in advance or years down the road, even if I've expired or I'm no longer here. So it's kind of like a legacy deal for me. And part of that is also building a software that makes this industry even better. And we're building that. If you guys are interested in that, you will get a link at the end of this webinar to where you can go sign up and put your name, email address, answer a few questions. And as soon as we make progress towards that, you will be given the opportunity to join as a VIP member. There, of course, will be costs associated with this training, with this software, with this private VIP inner circle, but you'll get first access to it because you're here on the webinar.
Got one more question. Owen asked, who submit the request for the permits, the customer or the general contractor?
Normally, when we do it, it's us, the general contractor. We always let the clients know if they're going to pay us, we do everything. We make it streamlined. We want to control the process, control the outcomes. But, you know, some people do it differently. And yes, sometimes homeowners can do that also. It's all depends on what you negotiate. Any other question?
That's it.
Okay, project kickoff. So now that we verified did project verification, got our permits, and made sure our project was set up, now we do a kickoff meeting. This is where we bring the clients in, we meet with them, we record the meeting, and we reiterate some of the key things before we start executing on building. We reiterate some of the main important things, and we make sure these meetings are video recorded. So first thing you see right here, set up for video recording. This is how I've trained my team. Got it laid out. You know, client confirms on video that they're okay with us being recorded. We make sure the laptop and camera is connected to the MacBook so we can do a recording. Normally it can be to YouTube as an unlisted video so nobody sees it. Then we start our kickoff meeting by reviewing all of our documents. That would be our contract, our specs, our allowances, we go over the final signed plans that we've already signed off on and agreed to. There's different things that we've created that we go over before we start to make a clear effort to eliminate all of the problems, all of the potential issues. So no one will be able to move forward later down the road and say, oh, I thought, oh, you said, oh, none of that. We've got different things. I mean, what is this? Advice and opinions waiver. Because sometimes we've been asked for advice or opinions, and we've given advice and opinions. And guess what happens? When that advice or opinions didn't meet a desired outcome or a desired expectation, now all of a sudden we're held financially responsible for that opinion on a selection that we gave. Well, guess what? We're a believer in paying for our lessons. We paid for that cost of tuition, but now we go over this with clients and we talk about that. And they agree that if they want advice and opinions from us, that ultimately they're responsible. We're not responsible for expectation misalignment with an advice or an opinion that we've given. We talk about the I thoughts or so-and-so says, you know, that we cannot do a contract where we're bound by I thought or someone said. We talk about things to make owners aware of to try to eliminate the surprises. And again, all this stuff's recorded. We talked about this clause. That's basically where if you're not careful, you can go through everything that we do and then get in the middle of a build and they're like, oh, but we talked about doing a swimming pool. We talked about doing a detached garage. That may be so, but also too, we never increased the budget for that. And we said that, you know, it wasn't included. Plus it's not on the final signed plans. It's not in the specs. It's not even in the allowances. But somehow that can become a problem. So we head all of this off at this meeting by going over every one of these. We talk about it. I read it to them personally, or one of my team members read it to the clients, and we get verbal agreements and acknowledgments as we progress, along with written signed documents. This is a little difficult. Nobody else does this, but this is the only way that we'll do it. So you've got, I didn't understand. That was supposed to be added. Adam forgot about that. Adam's the designer. Sometimes you'll hear that the designer forgot to add this, but they signed the final plans, right? So this, what happens now, once we go over this in this meeting, what do you think would happen, Chris, when I'm reading all of this? If that was you and your wife or whatnot, you're a client, and we're going through this right before we start, and I'm reading all of this stuff out to you, you know, what do you think happens in that meeting?
Well, a few things can happen. One, they definitely know you have the experience, but also if they can't come back later and say one thing or another because they know you've talked up front about having all these different clauses and waivers and whatnot, but that can solve a lot of problems.
Normally what happens is, you know, I explain just like I started explaining on some of them. On each one, I let them know where this came from. And this has been something I've learned from in the past, and I know nobody else does it. However, we're not interested in getting a client or getting a project, just getting a check and not solving past problems so they don't become future problems. But also, it makes us slow down. Wait a minute. Well, let me think about that. Was there, you know, this whole, you know, I didn't understand. Well, you know what? I didn't, before I saw, I didn't understand, what does this symbol represent on the floor plan?
They want to know more.
Now it makes you pump the brakes. Well, wait, yeah. Hold on, let's talk about this. It gives you an opportunity to get clarity. You see what I'm saying? And that's what all of this is for. The Adam forgot, I mentioned that during one of our meetings. What was that? It's not here because after this meeting, once this is signed, this is recorded, we won't have the luxury of coming back because I want to do a great job. But we have to pin all this stuff down, and we have to agree once we get past this that we're building to what the plan states. If it's not on the plans, please don't be upset, but this is what we agreed to. If we don't have that pot filler listed above your stove, and even though we might have talked about it, and then, you know what, well, is it on there? No, we didn't include that because it wasn't part of the specs. Well, you didn't tell him we wanted that added. See how this works? Now we can, now this is exactly what's supposed to happen. And so a lot of times you don't do this. You don't take the time to go through and do this type of stuff. But this is your project kickoff meeting. This means before we do anything, we're circling back with the clients again to make sure again that we're all on the same page. Any questions?
So I'm pretty sure if they were to go back before, you know, you guys started breaking ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
That will, they sign all this contract and they say they want the thing over there open, right?
Right.
That's a change order now, right?
At that point, if we get to the site and like we do all of this, and you're right, it does happen. But you know what the blessing with that is? It's never an argument. You know what I mean? It's a, you know, hey, I know we should have thought about this and we thought we could live without it, but I see we're at the under slab rough end stage. The wife and I was talking. We're thinking about going ahead and doing that pot filler. Is it too late for that? And we have a change order consideration fee. So there's all these little things that we've done, and we let the owners know up front of that too, because we don't like change orders. You got to remember, we're about being efficient. We're charging a good price on the front end. We're not trying to be the cheapest. We're charging a good price so we can make good profit, but also deliver excellent service and being efficient. But we do know in custom building, that's going to happen. But what you don't want to have happen is do like, we're not going to go and give you a cheap price knowing that we're going to make a killing in change orders. That's that's the industry, right? We don't even want change orders. So we tell people on the front end, to prove to you that we're not that builder and we don't want change orders, we're going to charge you a change order consideration fee. Now, like, well, what is a change order consideration fee? That is, if you decide after we do all this and we start building and you still want to change something, the moment you bring that up and you're wanting us to go down the path of entertaining and pricing it out and telling people to stop and wait and let us, because we might change something, you have to write a check. You know, $500 check, $1,000 check for consideration. And all this happens too at this project kickoff meeting, because that's part of the process. Well, wait a minute. So you're saying that that we're having to pay you $500 for just to consider a change order? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Well, you got to help me. That does not make sense. Or, okay, I see your point. Well, here's the thing. We've agreed that change orders is one of the only things that can throw a monkey wrench in our process, right? And think about it. Our team is about being efficient. If we don't keep a grip on that with the folks that we work with and how we project ourselves and how we are, what do you think the electrician or the plumber is going to say to us if we come to them while they're in the middle of something like that and we're coming at them with change orders? First time, maybe so. But if we don't keep that in check, what's going to happen is that plumber or that electrician or the HVAC guy is going to say, well, hold on a minute. The moment I tell him and his guys to stop and they're sitting there idle, it becomes a problem.
It's costing their own money.
Of course it is. But a lot of times homeowners don't see it like that. So you have to explain this to them up front. You can't explain that in the middle of it because no matter what you say, it doesn't come across the right way in the middle of it. So when you explain this up front, it either makes sense or it doesn't. And it gives the person the opportunity to say, well, hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't for us, which is okay. You see what I'm saying? But the change order consideration fee is meant to deter change orders. And the only way you're going to continue with a change order or even paying a change order consideration fee to the tune of $500 or $1,000 is that's a really important change order because that's just to consider it. Now it depends on how much time it's going to delay the electrician or the plumber, what other da. Plus, now it gives me time to go talk with them while they're waiting because he's going to bill me for that time he's waiting now, and I got to include that in the change order fee beyond the change order consideration fee. You see what I'm saying? I got to make sure everybody's happy, not just the client, not just us, but our trade partners. And the ideal client of ours, remember I told you our ideal client is someone who's building a forever home. They've built a home before. Guess what? If they built a home before, they know everything I'm telling them is true because they went through it on their previous jobs and they don't want to do that. And the forever home clients, they got more money to take care of that on the front end. You got to know your client too. That's another thing, guys. Whatever market you choose to go into, you have to do the research. You have to know your clients better than they know themselves. Meaning, like when clients come in and meet with us, I typically already know majority of the concerns that they may have, a lot of the questions that they may have before they even raise them. Now, you never get arrogant and cocky and condescending to where you think you know everything, but it's meant to where you listen, you take notes, and when that question comes, you hear them out, and you say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, I understand what you're saying, and your concern is this, this, and this. However, this is how we've overcame that. And you're doing that throughout the process, right? So we do all that just to ensure that we're still a good fit at the project kickoff stage. And normally, it could go a little bit this way, a little bit that way. We tend to address and overcome whatever the concerns may be. But once we get past this stage, now look at this. And I'm gonna pause here for a minute. I want everybody that's here to notice something. What do you notice when looking at this now?
There was a lot of steps right before you got to the construction process.
19 steps before it even break ground.
Yo,
But I'm just paying you to build for me. That's the thought process oftentimes. Right?
Yeah,
I'm coming to build. I mean, I'm just paying you to build. You ain't got to do all this other stuff.
that's all part of the process.
There's 18. I didn't go in here and expand on all these other things because we just ain't got that kind of time today.
it almost looks like the construction process is the easiest part after the.
Yeah.
I tell people the construction part is the easiest part.
Yeah.
You know what the most difficult part about the process is? If construction is the easiest, the most difficult part is normally otherwise communication, but we've got that solved, right? That's normally your number one issue. But if it ain't the communication, it's going to be having order, making all your selections up front. Everything's documented. There's no questions. What type of towel? Oh, we're using this type of towel. What type of grout? You've got the grout. What grout color? You've got the grout color. What grout spacing? You've got the spacing on your grout. What floor pattern? You've got that listed, right? So once we get here, we begin the construction part. Now, look at this. I'm not going to like really go through everything step by step. But now we're in the meat and potatoes of the construction process. And this is saying, okay, we're doing a slab foundation, a raised slab foundation, right? Again, this is high level overview. I'm not going to expand everything out because it's just too much detail. Step 1 is permits. Step 2 is site work, right? And each one of these will go out into 10 or 20 different things that we check in each stage of the process. Step 3 is setting up your job site with on-site utilities, setting up your construction interest, your temporary pole, your water. Is it a water meter? Is it a water meter setup or is it well drilling? Setting your porta john, erosion control. We set up our 4G camera so we can monitor our job sites with solar panels 24 hours a day. Our plans are laminated so they don't get destroyed. You know what I mean? They'll last the whole time during the whole job site. Set up designated smoking areas for people that smoke. We've got now the footing and foundation stage where we dig our footings, lay our block, and lay our brick. And all, again, each one of these go out into probably 40 or 50 or more stages at each one of these with lessons and processes you need to check at every one of these stages. Here's your framing stage, right? You got to build your first floor walls, termite pre-treat, frame first floor walls, second floor trusses, second floor walls, set roof trusses, roof OSB, synthetic underlayment for the roofing, wrap the house with Tyvek, set windows, set doors, and each one of these has 40 or 50 more steps and things that you need to look for and checklists that you need to check for at every single one of these stages that branch out. But I'm not gonna branch all those out. Just giving you a high level overview. Your interior rough-ins for electrical, for plumbing, for HVAC, your fireplaces, gas piping, our alarm system, hardware doorbell, your tech wiring, and your in-wall pest control. Then you're ready for your installation, then drywall hanging. You know, here's some of the things I put on a high level overview. Make sure the screws are set to the proper depth. Tub and showers are protected so they don't get ruined. No nails, only screws. They help eliminate nail pops. You want to check before you get to here to make sure your wood is below a 14% moisture content level. So your wood's not drying out after you put sheetrock on, because that's what's going to cause a bunch of your nail pops, the screw pops. You know, so those are just some of the little things among the many that you need to be checking for in order to deliver a quality product. You got your drywall finishing stage. We go in and do our inspection and our checklist at the finishing stage, sanding and dust removal, and then your sanding inspection with the lights, where we go in and shine the lights and see any and all imperfections, and then we go about fixing them. You're into your interior finishing stages, where you do your shower, your tile shower and your floors, your interior trim, cabinets, countertops, interior painting, flooring, exterior finals. This is where your painter's painting exterior, your rough grading, talks with your gutter folks to make sure that your underground gutter drainage ties in with the rough final grade to make sure you got slope, the right slope away from the home, installing the gutters and the downspouts, decks, concrete walkways, removing all the materials off the site, out of the way, then your final grading, then your fixture set outs. Your plumbers installing the plumbing fixtures, HVAC setting the units and the equipment, electrical installs the light fixtures, gas subcontractors if it's natural gas or propane gas. There's, you know, the things that you do depending on if it's either one of those. The appliance installer, the thing that they're installing, and then you'll have the typical issues and things to look out for when installing each one of these things that they need to fill out their checklist for. And everybody has to, we have to verify that every one of these stages is doing everything that they're supposed to be doing, and get video proof that everybody's doing everything that they're supposed to be doing at the stage that they're supposed to be doing it in, before we allow them to submit their invoices and, of course, getting paid. Right? So the reason why we get paid the big bucks is because we're documenting and mastering all the little details. You see what I'm saying? There's nobody else that's going to go to this extent that I've seen. But this is what we're driven by. And this is what the software that we're building is going to streamline and teach people every one of these steps. Even if you've never been in the industry, you go watch a video about, you've never had an appliance installer. You've never had to go in behind an appliance installer installing a fridge, stove, dishwasher, microwave. You won't even know what all to look for. But if you go to our software and you go to this line item and there's a video play icon, you play that video and I'm telling you exactly what to look for and exactly how it's supposed to be done. And before he sends off his invoice, I tell you, make sure that all this is done. And then you need to sign his checklist and send it over to billing before he gets paid. Now, if we had an issue with the fridge install, stove install, microwave install, and then we documented what those issues were and recorded explainer videos, so now anytime anybody new or does that install again and they watch that video training and then verifies all that stuff done, what's the chances of us having repeatable problems that we've had in the past? Right. And how do you think easy it is for me to hold you accountable if I give you a software tool and put you in there and all you got to do is to go in and watch and follow instructions, even if you've never done this before? Now, did you guys catch that? You should see the bigger picture now, even if you've never done it before. That's what the problem is with the market. Nobody's taking up the trades. Well drillers is 67 years old around here. There's only two. What's going to happen when they're no longer able to do it? It's going to be a void. Prices are going to skyrocket. Demand's going to go through the roof. Who's going to fill that void? What we do is going to be even worse. You see all the stuff we're having to do? How are you going to train somebody that's never done this before? It'd take you 5 or 10 years of you following beside me to learn every bit of this. And still you're going to be lacking. But once this is done and the content's made and I plug you in here and you go line item by line item with an explainer video showing you exactly what to do as if you're standing right over my shoulder, how many people you think can be trained on this once it's automated? And then once they watch the video, it's a project management tool now. Now you can turn this to the Gutierrez job and you go watch that install where I'm telling you, here's what they typically fail at. Make sure the discussion plate's like this, right? Make sure the pressure test is like this. Make sure when they slide that dishwasher back in that they don't forget to screw in these 2 screws here, because if not, you're going to get a call back and the homeowner's going to complain about the dishwasher is not secure. You will look like an expert at every stage of the way. And you'll have more knowledge than most people would have that's been doing it years and years and years. You see what I'm saying? And that's the whole goal of this. It started with me just documenting our process so I can train other people that's within the company to help get us to the point to where we're not working insanely, making all the same mistakes over and over and over, which is the way that it normally happens. So now this is the first step. The next iteration is getting that software developed, and you and Mark following me around, and we're getting all these videos at each step, and then it gets added to the software, and now it's made a template. And that's why I wanted to show you guys all of this, because that's what you could be getting access to as we're building this out. And you don't have to have the software. You can take this this webinar, take this, and still be way better off than what you would be without it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you build with crawl spaces or just on slabs?
Yes, we do build with crawl spaces. We used to do a lot of those, but not so much now. Crawl spaces were the thing that everybody wanted to do a few years ago, but after the floods and all the water that we've gotten, you know, seems like the trends have changed because of mold, mildew, snakes, cats, rats, whatever up underneath the bottom of the home, tearing out insulation, messing up ductwork and what have you. So we tend to be doing more of a raised stem wall slab, not just a regular slab, but the raised stem wall block slab can be elevated 16 inches or 2 foot or whatnot, and it'll give the look of a crawl space as far as being elevated, but you don't have to worry about all of the other stuff that you normally would with a crawl space, with it getting damp. And if you've got hardwood floors and then underneath your crawl space gets flooded or gets molded and mildewed and all that, now you got bigger issues with your subflooring and with your flooring. But yes, we do still do those. And when we do the crawl spaces, the only way we do them now is if the owners agree to incur the cost of doing an encapsulated crawl space. That's where you go underneath there and do that treatment with encapsulation with the plastic and the dehumidifiers and all of that. Because if not, what would happen if you don't cover all this stuff? You go do that in a year's time or whatnot, they start having issues underneath their home. Guess who's responsible for it, or who's wanting to be held liable for it? Right.
We have another question.
Okay.
She said, are you expanding to tiny home builds?
Actually, we have a video out where we're trying to get a deal done with the city of Fayetteville where we're looking to bring a tiny home community to Fayetteville. It looks very promising. We've had 2 or 3 meetings, I think it is, with them now. Everybody seems to be on board, but we're working through the logistics of getting, all the I's dotted, T's crossed, and getting the approvals. But if we get it approved, or when we get it approved, it'll be off of the Cape Fear River. You have boat dock access. It'd be a nice park, be like 93 or 94 townhome units. And, they're going to be unique. We call them tiny homes, but they're really not that small. You've got 9-foot ceilings or even 10-foot ceilings. And when you walk in them, they most definitely do not feel like a tiny home or a spec home for that matter. And that's the reason why I'm interested and motivated to do something like that, because we're all about doing something unique, that's different, that's interesting, that also isn't just, cookie cutter. I'm not knocking that. There's a market for that and for other stuff, but for what we're wanting to do, that's what interests us. So yeah, we are definitely looking at that. Next step here is going to be, like finishing out the painters, putting in 911 addresses on the home, the mailboxes, tile bars, shower glass, painting, interior cleaning, then project closeout, final inspection, get the certificate of occupancy, cleaning subcontractors, builder's punch list, owner's punch list, cleaning subcontractor, do the final cleaning. You see, we have a rough cleaning and a final cleaning, bank closeout and final payment, punch list companies, punch list completion and signature by owners, home orientation with homeowners, where we go over and leave them their warranty docs for the equipment, and then we go into the 1-year warranty period with the homeowners. So again, that's a condensed version. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to break all that stuff out, because it would just, we printed out this whole entire process on a 18 by 24 inch roll with our large format printer. And when we completed everything and had everything broken out, it rolled from our hallway, all from the front of our hallway all the way to the end when we printed it out that one time. That's how complicated it was. And it made me realize something. I used to try to train people like you guys and would go through something, but in my mind, it's so simple. This is simple. Why can't you get this? And it took me doing this right here, because I'm like, why does this seem to be so complicated? And they're like, you know what? I'm gonna document every single thing, and I'm gonna be able to da da da. And when I started doing this, and look, that's just step number 19, the construction process. And this ain't even a quarter of it, because once all this goes out 40, 50 layers deep. But then imagine when I expanded every one of these. It looked like a human DNA strand. You know what I mean? How do you take something that complicated and create a way to where someone can learn it and then master it? And that's what I've been challenged with. And so we've done a very great job at it. We've gotten really good at it. And the software, I think, is going to be a total game changer. The next step is your punch list process. Your project closeout process. That means sometimes after your punch list, you have to get electrical, water bills, and all that stuff changed out of your name, the builder's name, into the homeowner's name, and just some logistical stuff like that's typically in your project closeout. Then you've got the warranty stages, meaning like the owners are in their home, they got an issue with this, issue with that, they go through the warranty process. So you would have that broken out. And then we've got a process where we go about having you guys to go back in, meet with the clients, get video reviews, video testimonials, and things of that nature. And that's the typical process that we follow in the home building business. And that's step 1 through 23 at a high level, but most definitely not really that in depth with each one of the levels, but I'm hoping that give you guys a lot of insight. And I would like to ask a question now for those of you guys that watch this. What is the one thing or a couple of things that is the biggest key takeaway from that stuck out the most?
Well, me personally, I can see how you are able to advertise your business as stress-free. Your construction process is completely stress-free. The process that you have laid out here, it literally, I can see how it eliminates any problem that you may be able to run into, and that can only be gained by just pure experience. We also have a question from someone from Jason. He said, "Can we see your warranty process?"
So the warranty process, let me see if I had that detailed out here. If not, I'll just kind of walk you through it. Now I don't have that one detailed out there. So the warranty process is simple. Once we go through our punch list, which that gives the owner the opportunity to walk through the home themselves before we close it out, make a list of whatever they see that needs to get taken care of, that gets listed out. Before they do that, myself and my team also goes in independently and make our own list. So before the homeowner even makes a list, we've already made lists. They don't even see those. So they go in, they make their list. Normally it's shorter because we've already did a lot, right? So we go through multiple iterations of punch lists, and then we go through that. And then once the punch list is done and satisfied, we meet with the owners, video record, going through the punch list, documenting it, verifying everything's done. The homeowner signs off on it, and boom, punch list done. They move in. They're living in their home, and the GFI outlet trips or something stops working. In case a lot of that happens quite often, you've got a GFI that's tripped, something doesn't work. And normally what happens with the messenger group that we have, there's all kind of ways to do it. This is the way we do it. It just seems to be way more efficient this way. Is they will simply message us right there in the messenger group and show us a video of exactly what's going on. Hey guys, hope everybody's doing good. Yeah, we got a slight issue here. We're not figuring out why this isn't working. Not sure. Don't want to call the electrician if it's something that we can figure out, with you guys' help. Let me know what you think, right? They send it and our phone goes ding, everybody's phone goes ding. We all look at it. Adam looks at it. I look at it, whoever said, oh yeah. Have you checked your circuit panel? We respond, have you checked your circuit breaker panel? It's in the garage. Take a video of what you see out there. And normally they'll go out there and otherwise they'll already see a trip breaker. Boom, they reset it. Oh, yep, that's what it is. If not, we keep going through a process of elimination remotely. Oh, well, there's normally a GFI in your bathroom. Can you go check all of your GFIs and make sure that none of them are tripped? Or they call us on FaceTime right there and we walk them through it. So we tend to eliminate some of the warranty stuff by doing that. Now, if we run into an issue to where that doesn't work and we need to schedule the plumber or the HVAC guy, whatever, we will do that on behalf of the client. We do give the clients a list of all the vendors, all the subcontractors, name, information, email, phone number, but we do that as a concierge service, right? To make it easy for them. Easier for them. It's never easy when you're in the home and you're having a schedule. That's a whole nother story. But we try to eliminate that, but you're still going to have it. Then when we schedule with the subcontractors, a lot of times we're going to meet them on site also until we figure out what the issue is. And they get a 1-year warranty. So it's almost like they're getting white glove instant service through using instant communication. And at that 1-year period, at the 11th month, we go back in and meet with them. If there's anything that needs to be handled, we handle it then. Then outside of the 12-month warranty period, of course, we're outside of our warranty period. So technically, we don't have to really go in and warranty things after the 1-year mark. But I often will tell clients like this. If you ask our clients, they will tell you that when they call, we're still just as responsive if it's 2 years or 5 years after the fact. If they message us, we're still just as responsive as the first time they met us. And we still oftentimes will go into folks' home if they've got an issue, no matter if it's a year, if it's 5 years. The only difference is that if we charge or when we charge, sometimes we don't. But it's totally up to me and up to us. And the great thing about working with ideal clients is that when you choose not to charge, they're super thankful because they know we don't have to do that. And even when we do, it's okay because they know it's their responsibility, right? So it's kind of like a give and take. And the idea is to, of course, the way we try to do things, we try to be a blessing to all of our clients. And part of having an ideal client avatar, who's your ideal clients, it's easier to be a blessing to people who are open to receive blessings. You understand what I'm saying? And that's key to know for us, at least, is because you can find some clients and work for some clients if you're not careful, where no matter what you do, it's going to be a problem, right? We've been there. So we learn from it and we put systems and procedures at the right place. So when we make a mistake or we miss something, you know what we do? Hey guys, we need to go in the framing stage of the construction And in the framework, we need to go in and add this to our checklist. And boom, we go expand this out, add a new item for what to check, record a video showing exactly what the issue was and how we avoid it in the future. And then the next time we go through it, guess what? The idea is we don't have that same mistake again. But hopefully that answers the question about, did I answer the question about the warranty process?
So.
Okay.
Jason responded, but yeah, that's Gerald.
Mhm.
That's not a question, but he said, I appreciate you taking the time to do this and offering it for free. Gratitude, I garnered a better perspective.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. No problem. No problem. So we'll hang tight for just another second or two, but if anybody has any further questions, now is the time to ask them. I'll be sure to give you an answer.
We're going to be dropping the early sign up for the complete.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and put that in there, that link. So Brandon's going to go ahead and put the link in the chat box here below where you can click on that. And if you do want to get notification of this software that we're developing, or if you want to get into the business and you want these type of tools, you want this type of more in-depth training, we're going to be offering some a few spots for high-level mentorship that you'll be able to sign up for also. We haven't determined when we're going to launch it or what the exact price is going to be. I do know that it will be at least $5,000 at the lowest point. It just wouldn't make sense for me to do it without that price point being there. I'll probably open doors up for maybe 5 or 10 people, and then they will get access to the software also that we're going to have. It'll be a one-time fee. Won't be like everybody else. They're going to pay a monthly fee for it, but for the folks who join early, they'll get access not to just our inner circle and to me and have me as a mentor, but also get access to that software to give us feedback on it through the first iteration. And you'll be able to get in for a one-time fee and I'll be a founding member for the platform. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys over in on the sign-up form for that. And we'll hang out just another minute or two.
So we have another question from Tina. She says, we thank you for sharing your wisdom. Do you have any specific consistent routines that have helped you be more successful?
Yes. Those consistent routines are simple. Whenever you're dealing with people, in our case, subcontractors, right? No matter if it's the footing subcontractor, the foundation subcontractor, the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, every subcontractor, the thing that helps us the most is before they start that job, any job, myself, one of our team members, will go the day that they start. They don't start any work until we do a job briefing with them. That job briefing is recorded also on video. We go over the same things we discussed with them initially when we onboarded them in our office, our process of checking in our job sites, letting us know that they're on our job site. They send a video showing that they've counted for the materials that are on the job site. So we know they've got the materials that they need. As they're working, they're sending us progress and video updates throughout the day to our group so we can track the progress. If they have an issue on the job site, they send a video explainer of what that issue is. And then we're able to resolve it oftentimes within minutes. And if it's something that can't be resolved in minutes, we respond and go on site and we fix it within an hour or two. This alone by itself will transform any construction business if they start communicating like that at every step of the way.
So Owen says, thank you very much for doing this. Will there be a link to look at this video again? I missed the first 10 steps. There will be a link.
Yeah, so there will be a link. We've got the email addresses for you guys. We'll probably put the replay back. We think we'll put it up on Facebook or just on YouTube. So we'll send the link once we have it up on YouTube. This will be a video that's open to the public. An idea is to give a high-level overview of what a successful construction business's blueprint from step 1 to step 23 looks like. And also as an invitation for those of you who want to learn more, just sign up with the link that Brandon just now sent in the comment section to get advanced notice of the software and to ultimately become, part of our group with the VIP membership and mentorship. So I appreciate you guys for stopping in, for joining in. Hopefully I gave a lot of value. And if you think of any questions, even after you log off, you guys know how to get in contact with me on Facebook, on Messenger. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your questions. Let me know what we can do more, better, different to give even more value. And I want to thank you all in advance. Hope you have a wonderful day.